Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Sonar Fishing. Today I'm about to get out on the water, but I wanted to do this video real quick and kind of show you the baits that I'm going to be throwing right now that are really well suited for the water temps that we're seeing on most of the lakes in at least this area, but pretty much across the country, across the south. Other than up north, you guys are still probably dealing with some hard water, which we just had thawed down here just 2 days ago, or actually just yesterday. We had a good warm day, but the water temps are still in the low 40s. When I say low 40s, I was seeing still, even though we had like a 65-degree day and it was sunny, it was still like 41 degrees. Super cold. That's putting these fish in a big funk. And so you kind of have to adjust presentations. You know, usually this time of year I'd be throwing a jerkbait and lipless crankbait, which I still throw, but these three baits that I'm going to show you right now kind of edge out those presentations that I'd normally be throwing late January or early February, but are really good for catching very, very cold water fish. All right, so the very first bait that you need to be throwing right now, this is one that has been you know, an important player during the coldest months of the year for decades, for generations really, and that is the good old jig. And more specifically for me, it's a football jig. This time of year, it's all about getting deeper and fishing, you know, rock transitions, bluff walls, things like that. And a football jig is just well suited for that. This right here is the Z-Man cross-eyes football jig. Really good football jig. I love this thing. I've been fishing it for the last, I think, 5 years or so. Whenever it came out, it became my favorite. It's got this really cool weed guard on it that's pretty unique. It's just this plastic V-shaped piece that does a really, really good job without impeding the hook set. But anyways, football jig is going to be just a classic. I usually pair it with a do nothing trailer. This is the Z-Man bat wings. And you can see here, it doesn't have like appendages that flap or anything like that. It just has a lot of surface area, allows this bait to glide down. Like if I'm working it down like a bluff bank or something like that, has a nice glide to it. And on the bottom, it just looks natural because everything this time of year, including crawfish, are moving very slow. That's just what the fish are used to seeing right now. So yeah, I just really slowly crawl this thing around, just drag it. I don't add a lot of action to it, but I fish it very, very slow and deliberately around rock cover and steeper banks. Channel swings, secondary points, primary points, you know, anything like that. Also rock transitions, if they're in the right location, those are all going to be places that I throw a football jig. So this is a really, really important one. And all of the products that I'm talking about today, as well as the tackle that I'd use with it, rods, reels, and line, those are going to be in the description below. And that is a great way to support the channel. If you're looking for a way to say thank you for the content I put out there for free, if you're going to buy the products, consider using those links to do so. Take you to Tackle Warehouse, and that's the best way to buy this stuff. So anyways, on to the next. All right, so the next bait is one that admittedly I have resisted for a long time, but in the last couple of years, I definitely have put some time into learning how to catch fish with this bait. But when I moved to Tennessee, I had never fished a blade bait before, like a silver buddy or something like that. And during the wintertime, everybody's fishing this bait on Lake Chickamauga. Maybe not everybody, that's an exaggeration, but so many people are catching a ton of fish when the fishing is at its slowest because of the cold weather with a blade bait like this right here. This is the Demiki Volt. This is the one that I've learned to really like the best. It just looks good, comes in a bunch of different colors. I also just bought the you know, Spro version, which I'll give you guys a report on that, but they also had some really good colors, including that one. But in general, a blade bait, even though it looks like a lipless crankbait, you can fish it like a lipless crankbait. It has a lot of vibration. You generally can pick 3 different holes to you know, clip to, which allows you to get different actions from, you know, real tight vibration to a pretty wide wobble. And even though it looks like a lipless crankbait and you can fish it like a lipless crankbait, just casting out there and reeling it back, for the most part, a blade bait is great for wintertime or you know, the coldest months of the year, because it maintains really good bottom contact, and it's a great just lift and drop yo-yo technique. So when the fish are tightest to the bottom, just really hanging tight to the bottom, like we've got right now, super cold water, those fish are very lethargic, they're just hanging tight to the rocks and things like that. The blade baits do a really good job. It gets down there quick, you can cast it a mile, and even with forward-facing sonar, you can see the fish hanging tight to the bottom, you cast down to them and just work it real slow. Small little hops, you know, you're really not hopping it more than like a foot off the bottom at a time. And it's just a great way to catch fish this time of year. It's one that frankly, I'm still learning, but it's one that you definitely need to have tied on during this time of year. All right, guys, so the third bait that we have to talk about, because it is a very, very popular technique right now with forward-facing sonar, you know, live scope and technology like that, where, you know, guys are just absolutely crushing it on the tournament trail doing this, but it is super well suited for the coldest months of the year, because what's happening, just like we talked about with the blade bait, fish are really holding tight to the bottom. Sometimes they're you know, suspended up maybe a little bit off the bottom, but you need to have a presentation that really can hover above their heads, okay? Because they're really slow, really sluggish, and that's where the jig head minnow comes into play. There's a lot of different names for this. The Mickey rig is one. We call it the Ned Mickey rig here, you know, on the Z-Man team. But essentially, a jig head minnow is a great minnow imitation, you know, shad imitation, but it is one that is well suited for just, you know, finding fish on your forward facing sonar. It's real electronic centric, finding fish on sonar, casting to them individually and hovering it above their head. Now, other parts of the year where it's still effective, you may be moving it a lot faster. You know, a lot of guys will cast it to the fish. Once they get interest, they start taking it away from them. During the wintertime, if you're doing anything, you're maybe just kind of lifting it up slowly, but you got to slow down and just hover it above their heads generally to get them to bite. This right here is the Z-Man jerk shads. This is a great color. This is the Gussie's Glimmer Blue. And then we've got the Finesse Eye Jig Head. Really good package all together to catch fish this time of year. I like this more, you know, opaque, pearlish color generally this time of year, just because everything's kind of more white or you know, opaque colored. You know, the fish in general, they're just kind of a lighter color. So that's kind of the choice that I like to use. And it's also stained water a lot this time of year. So anyways, guys, those are just the three baits that today I'm gonna definitely have tied on, because I think that they're absolute killers this time of year when it's super, super cold. I may not catch fish on every single one of these today, but they are definitely going to produce on different days under different conditions. All right, if you guys have any questions, drop a comment below. If you have a topic you want me to cover in a future video, do the same, and also use those links in the description below. That's a great way to support the channel. Once again, thank you guys very much. I'm gonna see you out in the water. Trust the process.